as we talk about these life tuition fees, well, make sure you're learning those lessons. It didn't just happen, but that you also took notes, you took the test, you passed the test, metaphorically speaking, and that you're taking that knowledge with you.
For sure. Well, you know what's unique about it, and we'll come full circle.
First, seconds, performing, non-performing? What the f***? Note buyers, when it seems like you're in this business alone, know Chase, Robert, and the rest of their tribe are at it every week. They're bringing updates from their own note businesses as they work to find, fund, and finish deals. Follow along as they share their grassroots education with you, tuition free. If you'd like to know more about what they do and to download the entire back catalog, check out NoteMBA.com. Now, here are your hosts, Chase Thompson and Robert Woods.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Note MBA podcast, your home for note investing on iTunes. I am Chase Thompson, joined as always by Mr. Robert Woods. Mr. Woods, what is up?
Dude, I'm looking at my cell phone. I got too many messages.
Wait, too many messages like across different, I'm in the too many messages across a lot of different apps. Are you saying in one particular app?
Just like on my home screen.
Just, yeah.
Did not
just the
receive checks, call me.
notification. Yeah.
No, like literally people texting me. I've got something somebody wants some bids. Somebody else didn't get checks. Tonio couldn't get a hold of the contractor in Georgia. It's been a busy morning already.
Man, it's like you're running a business. It's like, you've got S hitting the F sometimes and things need to get done. I like it. I currently have
this was supposed to be easy.
Yeah, right? Like I have like that same kind of, I've got like the text, I've got like phone calls I got to get back, tons of email, Facebook Messenger stuff. I'm like, I saw an interesting video that was linked up by Tim Ferriss in his weekly email. And it was kind of tongue in cheek, but there's a setting in the back end of an iPhone, and I'm assuming an Android as well, that allows you to turn your screen into a grayscale. So it basically just kind of like makes everything different shades of gray, right? And it instantly, like the guy's like, my phone became instantly less interesting to me, just as a general rule. Because when every single, like Instagram image is a black and white, and every single video and Facebook, like once everything is just kind of like that blah, like Pleasantville color, you're like, ugh, this isn't interesting to me anymore. And he's like, I really was able to like, part ways with my phone a lot more frequently because of it. So it's kind of unique. Anyway, not that I don't think helps your current problem. I just thought it was kind of a unique way to handle somebody trying to detach themselves from a cell phone.
Yeah, I don't really feel attached to mine. I think that's why I also had so many messages on it. I'm pretty good at leaving it on silent in the corner and then going to get it later.
And you're like, oh, crap, houses are on fire. That's a reference to an old episode, people. Anyway, first things first, we want to mention something right off the top. I would like to mention something right off the top. It is the Thanksgiving episode of 2K16, and this is just me. If you get our weekly emails, then you got this already on Monday. If you don't get our weekly emails, what's wrong with you? Go to the website, sign up. If you're hearing the sound of my voice, if you've downloaded this podcast, if you've listened to even 1 minute or read one word or done anything regarding any creation with the Note MBA podcast since its inception, thank you. This is me sincerely just saying thank you for being out there, for being awesome, and for consuming this show that we're trying to create for you. So I just wanted to say thank you. I wanted to, just right off the top.
A lot of gratitude in that, Chase. A lot of gratitude.
Well, look, man, the show's coming out the day before Thanksgiving. I don't recall past shows how we handled it, but I know this time I can control it, so I am. Thank you guys so much for being here, for being a part of the show, for being a part of the community.
It's been a good year.
Yeah,
it's been a good year.
I think it's been a fantastic year. And speaking of Thanksgiving, Robby, you mentioned something as we got started this morning with our call, and you said your plate was getting a little too big. This gave me this thought of you walking around this kind of Thanksgiving spread with just your plate just being overloaded with just all the greatness that is Thanksgiving. But in this case, when it comes to business, you just got a lot going on, man. You've got your plate's loaded, bro.
We've been busy for the last 3 months. And you know what it is? We were talking about this, and I was looking at some of the deals that I've got and some projects. Really, I would say we don't struggle with this. We just need to finish some things that we've got going on.
Yes,
and
I'd agree with that.
There's delays, there's life, there's everything. But yeah, I'm working on making the plate a little smaller. And if my plate's smaller, I feel it means I can let other people have larger plates.
Yes. And a piece of that is outsourcing. A piece of that is understanding what you should say no to. We've obviously had a show about the power of no before. One of the things I wanted to talk about this week, though, was in the spirit of a smaller plate, in the spirit of taking things off your plate, I thought it was really awesome and really amazing that you were basically able to pseudo clone yourself while you were up in Chicago handling business up there. The two team members that you have there at NextGen HQ in Orlando were able to fly out to Georgia, Atlanta specifically, I believe, and get some work done there for the company. I think that's fantastic. I don't think there's a lot of investors in our space that have that that are there yet, and I thought that was really, really fantastic. Now, granted, I say pseudo cloning, right? These people, they're two great dudes, but they're not coming with the same experience you have and the same knowledge and some of those things. But that's how they get it, right? Like that's amazing that you were able to do that.
It is. Well, you know what's been unique about it? There's a mental play to it, which Michelle, who we've had on the show, my business and life coach, we spoke about it a little bit. And then it is nice in the theme of Tim Ferriss to outsource some more things. And as soon as you can accept if it gets done 80% as well as you would have done it, or you feel you would have done it, you're probably at the right point to let go. And then you're like, I'm in Chicago. I'm spending, money to fly them up there, to feed them for the rental car. They're working. Don't get me wrong. There's a big incentive behind it. But it's an interesting mental thing to go through and realize, like, I'm going to spend, $500 for a day on nothing to do with me, though the reality is it's helping the underlying business, which obviously funnels back to me at the end of the day.
Right, exactly. And how else would, say, the team member get that, right? Obviously, unless they're right there beside you. But even then, I think that a lot of times there might be missed opportunity where you'll handle a situation or you'll take care of a certain thing if you're right by them, just instinctively, where they don't get maybe an opportunity to learn. On top of that, Tonio, which is a guy we've talked about on the show, he sent me a text ahead of the flight, and he said, hey, Robby's got us going up to Atlanta. What can I do for the team from a marketing perspective while I'm out there? And I didn't even text him back. I called him like immediately. And I'm like, here's what I need you to get for me. I need this type of video. I need this type of photo. Which properties are you looking at? Get me this, get me this, get me this, get me this. And he nailed it. He shot back, I think it was like something like 16, 20 videos, photos, all this kind of stuff. Now, was it in reference to what we're talking about regarding, 80% of the way? It was absolutely 80% of the way. Did everything look like I would have done it? No, it did not. But it was definitely good enough and an amazing first attempt at getting some of these things that we can definitely use from a marketing perspective to later explain in deals for, say, case studies, just to kind of have as B-roll to roll on for other deals. It was really great. It was kind of an initiative-taking opportunity for him, and I think he did a decent job there. And I just thought it was really awesome that you had your team out there doing that, dude. It was really cool.
We are expanding. I think it's just because, like we said, we've got all these projects we're trying to finish out. In the course of the year, we did like a huge expansion, and I think we're appropriately in like a big contraction phase right now, but appropriately. It's more concentrating instead of contraction, I guess I should say.
So like 5 steps forward, 1 step back kind of thing?
Exactly. Well, slimming down what markets we're working in. We've got some large projects we need to finish out. Which we've talked about. One of the biggest ones, we're going to segue to the end of our list. I'll just throw it in here. We've been talking about the Salesforce CRM system that I'm having built out. And I'm just like a little kid just waiting to actually really, really dive into it. I just sent Chase a couple screenshots of the work the consultants have been getting done. And I'm excited about the automation we're going to be able to build into it throughout 2017. I can't wait to be able to use it right now. And I have purposely, I would say, taken a stall on some acquisitions. Well, I think we bought 7 notes this month so far, which I guess it's relative.
Yeah, well, sure. I was going to say, right, it's all relative. To me personally, I think it's fantastic when you can like geek out on, I get these screenshots from Robby and I'm like going through it and I'm like, oh, I love that. It's a screenshot of the back end of what is essentially a CRM tool, but you can see the potential it has. You can, feel like the energy that you're kind of like, that's bubbling up and like, oh man, this is going to do this and this would be really awesome. That is a really cool feeling. Just in general about business, about, it's like geeking out over spreadsheets, like there's very select people that would do that. Right. But it's a really unique opportunity. Really, it's just going to be killer from a business perspective. And so it was fantastic to be able to like finally get a chance to look at those and not even be able to go through the functionality, but just like see the screenshots and like, oh snap, this is going to be fantastic.
Yes, I'm very, very much looking forward to that. What else do we got going on that we're going to talk about?
You had mentioned handling. So while your boys were down in Georgia, you were up in Chicago, and you had mentioned talking a little bit about Chicago property preservation. So you didn't give me any details. All you gave me was that headline. What are we talking about here?
So broad. Well, I think this is going to be me running on for a second, but I think there's a couple unique things about it. One, what I would highlight here is the class of assets that I am comfortable buying are probably not the same class of assets a lot of investors are comfortable with. The neighborhoods, the locations, the quality. I look at them from an ROI perspective, and if they look good on an Excel spreadsheet, I'm happy to show up in the neighborhood during the daytime. And what's interesting, though, is there's tons of money to be made in those markets. There's also a shit ton of money to be lost. And sorry, Pops, we try not to cuss too much on the show. But over the course of the last month, there were some properties in a deal that I was involved with that weren't properly preserved. The deals literally just sat there. And as a result, they got vandalized. And the vandalism on two properties is to the tune of a good $50,000 combined. And that comes from a lack of organization, a lack of direction, a lack of standard operating procedures. And it goes to show, if you're in those types of neighborhoods, you need to be on top of your game. You don't need to wait. Time is money. And taking time to make decisions and or not make decisions, my father's classic, not making a choice is still a choice, resulted in some significant damage to some properties. And I think it's just one of those things to point out that there can be points in time where you're looking at what the cost of something is, whether it's your O&E up front or that BPO or the extra day pushback or something like this, such as boarding up a property indoors. And you need to look at it as an insurance policy on the underlying asset, as opposed to, I don't want to lose another $1,800 of my deal. When $1,800 is a fraction compared to what an HVAC system consists of, or when that HVAC system goes, you can also assume your hot water heater is going to go, most likely any appliances and copper. And that's exactly what happened in these situations. And it's just one of those things for people to stay aware of and keep front of mind. If you're going to work in some of these lower income neighborhoods, it's something to be very well aware of. I also, I would caution people to believe that it doesn't happen in nicer neighborhoods, because it does just the same amount. It's just a different type and probably not with the same consistency that you can expect in some of the lower end neighborhoods as soon as a property goes vacant.
And so I guess there's so much to unpack there, right? It doesn't deter from investing in those areas, right? Like you said, it can definitely happen in nice areas. It just speaks to the systems. It speaks to, like you said, inaction isn't not action. It's still in action, right? So if you're going to be investing, period, you also need to have these structures, these systems, these protocols in place to be able to go preserve properties and all that kind of stuff. And we're not just talking about property preservation like winterization, but also getting some burglary, type things done. You had actually sent a text regarding one of your guys had said someone had gone through the dog door, and I was like, oh, that's kind of weird. Like, holy crap, what could they pull out? Like someone actually went through the rigors of like going through a doggy door. I thought doggy door, right? Like that was what I defaulted to. And then in the next text, you had worded it DAWG, which is dog doors, right? And I'm like, okay, we're on the same page. But like these types of things are necessary. These are even if it's a $30,000 asset, that's still $30,000. And I feel like when you talk about inaction in the way you did, it seems like people are taking this is the value of a Snickers bar approach instead of this is a $30,000 thing. Like, maybe I'm just coming from a different background, but like that's still a lot of money to me. So like things need to be handled appropriately regarding that, right? Like, I think that's incredibly important.
Well, it definitely doesn't. Here's where I'll emphasize it. This was a separate trade, so this wasn't inside of my company. This was just a project I'm helping with. But I can give you a personal perspective on it too, where I'm talking about the size of having too much stuff going on. People get too busy, myself included. I know internally I try to focus the bulk of my attention on any of my joint venture deals. And I was on a call with you and another investor a couple weeks ago, and somebody had said something about Gary, Indiana. And I'd had a deal in Gary, Indiana that I had taken out of Noteworks, the system that I had been using for a long time to track my deals, because we're transferring everything over to Salesforce, and totally had just forgotten about that property for like 3 months.
Yes, I remember that call.
So we were on the call, but part of that is just not having too much going on and not having your system set in place and just letting stuff happen, which, it happens to a lot of people, but it's how should I say this? It's about how often it happens, or when it happens, how much does it sting when it happens. And I think it's just one of those things to keep front of mind and always be constantly working on. I think for us, stuff that you and I are working on all the time, Chase, is we always say we're going to screw these things up. It's going to happen. And it's the fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. So it's about learning from each one of these things. But, when one of these instances we speak of cost you a semester at USC with room and board, I mean, it stings a little bit,
And you better come away with the appropriate education thereof, right? Like that's the other big, the other big ticket item is we talk about these life tuition fees. Well, make sure you're learning those lessons. It didn't just happen, but that you also took notes, you took the test, you passed the test, metaphorically speaking, and that you're taking that knowledge with you.
For sure. Well, what's unique about it, and we'll come full circle into another topic we wanted to go over to, but I look at this, if this was a new investor and they just didn't know, or they dragged their feet a little bit and this happened to them, I mean, that could wipe you out on one of your deals.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
There's your profit. Your investor's pissed. They're going away. But part of that also goes to a unique thing where I just we finally just got out of a deal in Miami, and I actually need to call the investor to go over stuff. I'm just waiting for some final electric bills. But when you're modeling your returns that you expect, how are you building stuff in? And this is something that you and Paul had talked about on the podcast last week.
Yeah, so I actually wanted your take on this. I love being able to do these really great interviews. Sometimes we're not able to do them together, right? And so that's always a unique challenge, because I know that there's so many other questions or perspectives you would bring to the table in it, which is why obviously we do the show in general, right? And one of the things that Paul and I had talked about as a quick, for someone who didn't listen, and obviously for you, was the notion of investor returns, the expectation, and not on the part of that passive JV you might have, but he was more referring to people that buy from him. And a lot of people saying that the market is things are getting too expensive, or the deal flow isn't out there, or different things like that. And, he kind of, obviously, you have to take a bit of a caveat with this one, insofar as he is a seller, right? So you take that for what it is, but he's also a buyer. He buys large pools and then sells them, right? But just people coming to the table and saying, well, look, I can't buy this from you at 55%, of value, what have you. There's not enough meat on it. I can't buy it at 60. There's not enough meat on it. And he is really, he brought a unique perspective of just saying, like, look, if you're bringing in JV money and using very little of your own, and sometimes not even any of your own, your return is essentially infinite, right? If you got 5%, that was 5% on nothing. Now, granted, you're paying for your time and yada, yada, yada. Mm-hmm. And that is obviously needs to be factored into the equation. But his part and point was that if these deals go all the way through, say, a foreclosure, and they hit the county steps and someone's buying it and what have you, these fix and flip shows, these classes people are taking on how to do that business, it's 75, sometimes 70, 80% of FMV or ARV a lot of times, because there's a bit of fixing that is involved. They're buying them at even more expensive than you would be. Now, I know that sometimes there's foreclosure costs or paying of taxes and some of these other things, but his big take was like, look, there's a lot of people out there that are just stoked with high single-digit returns. Anything in the double digits, too risky, I'm out. Those people are out there, and that makes these deals more than worth the squeeze. And taking action against. Now, again, he's a seller, yada, yada, yada. But I did want your take on that. Just on the general expectations of people being upset that there's not 40% in the deal for them. So I'm not gonna do the deal. You know what I mean? That's a little strange.
I hear you, and this will be interesting, and jump in here and interrupt me if I'm kind of going off topic. But, I look at how I structure my deals individually or for a JV. And to be honest, I want the same return in a joint venture deal as I want if it's just my money. I'm not going to lower my return. However, I'm pretty picky with what I buy. I'll take my time. I truly come from a belief that there is plenty of inventory out there, and that if I take enough time, either the good deals come to me or I'm able to find them. So, from a seller's point of view, I look at it this way. Like we get conversations back and forth via LinkedIn or Facebook, or whether it's direct to our email, about people saying, are you guys selling anything? I've sold one note this year. Actually, we've sold more than that, but I've sold a couple notes, and they were reperforming notes. And there's no reason for me to sell any of the notes that I buy, because I look for a yield that's specific to my business. And if I can target that yield, why would I want to sell it? Like, it's a good yield. But the people that are happy that he refers to at 7, 8, 9%, they're only happy at 7, 8, 9% because those investments tend to be backed by a big, gigantic name that's got millions of dollars in marketing. It's a household name. Mm-hmm. It's not Next Gen Coastal Investments or all these other people that have investment companies that you're doing your email pushes, or you're meeting people out, or you're talking to your friends and family. I think for what we do, the reason why you have to expect the higher returns that come in the face of what he was saying is that it's a lot more unknown. It's not as set it and forget it as a corporate bond or something else that's going to be available, or a mutual fund. And I think that's what's built into it. I also think on the flip side of that, though, which is hilarious, there's some sellers there. I had a great conversation with an investor out of California last week when I was in Chicago. There are some sellers out there that are ripe to screw over whoever will pay whatever they will pay. And we've been in trades where I've seen somebody getting ready to pay $10,000 more for a note than I was going to pay. Yes. And you know what? That yes. seller isn't going to stop you and say, whoa, wait a second. Your returns are going to be too low with that. They're ready to wire. They're ready to get you a contract with wiring instructions.
He talked about that, actually.
Yeah, you've got to look at. Yeah, we know we discussed this beforehand. Just so everybody knows, I didn't get a chance to listen to last week's episode, and that's part of it. The problem is I told you I bought these contract for deeds. Not only the seller, but the conduit through which I purchased them. The files came through and they were junk. Like, I've had to spend an hour with my attorney on the phone. Now I'm going to have to spend more time with my attorney to get documents sent back and forth, and everybody's got an excuse for it. And my opinion is it's bullshit that somebody sent me a file that was that dirty anyway. Mm-hmm. And it's one of those things that you've just got to look at. Now, here's the catch. I got a crazy price on those files. So am I really going to throw a fit? Am I not going to work with this person ever again? No, of course not. It'd be stupid not to. But you look at it. If you're going to sell me something that's perfectly clean, I get a service transfer in my 24 days, the hello goodbyes come out, I don't have to go back to you for assignments and launches, I probably shouldn't have to pay you that much. I mean, I shouldn't have to bother you that much. You should get paid a little bit better return because that work's already there. If I get one of these junk files from you, I expect some cut rate prices on it, simply for the fact I've got to go back and clean up some mess that you didn't want to deal with because you were just trying to make a brokerage trade in the middle.
Mm-hmm. And so, again, he actually mentions this in the show, but I also know that one of his big things, this is Paul in particular, and some people that we deal with, he buys for the purpose of keeping, right? So when he buys his stuff, they immediately, as an organization, start working the file. They start working it like they're going to see this thing all the way through, whether it's a foreclosure or, turned into an REO, it stays as a performer, whatever the case may be. At the same time, though, he's got another side of the business that immediately gets ready to sell it all. And depending on where they're at in the process of a particular deal, it changes the pricing. Just like you're saying, if they bring a clean file, they've already done all the collateral work. They've already got, the assignment, everything's fixed. They've got an O&E. They've got the BPO that just got, they've got all these things all ready for you. They've essentially paid for some of your things, and that might be a premium price.
Oh, for sure.
And you might or might not be willing to pay it or be in a position to pay it, or your business might not be in a place to pay it. But that's a really interesting take. This idea that but I don't want to pay premium for junk. Of course not. That's a great take. I wouldn't have thought of that, from that perspective.
No, it is. But I think the other thing that goes into it is, listen, there's a lot of people out there. There's a lot of education going on and not a lot of deals going on behind it in some places. And the thing that you need to think of, you get a lot of newly educated people that they email us, they call us, and some of the questions we get, we try to answer a lot of questions, and we're happy to do it. And some I get them, I will be honest, I don't have time. I delete the message. Don't bother me with some of these questions. There's somebody that you cut a check to that should be answering these questions, not us. And the thing that's unique about it is they're going to go out in the marketplace, and sellers, and this is not saying Paul because this is what you guys talked about, but it goes back to what I said. They'll sell them anything at any price. And because they just got educated, they're like greyhounds coming out of the gate. They're just jumping ready to go. Mm-hmm. And they're buying some just absolute shit.
Yep.
So I think a lot of it comes to, we've got a different perspective because we are very, in the big picture of non-performing mortgage notes, we are still very, very little tiny minnows swimming around in this ocean. However, I'm a minnow with a lot more friends than the new minnow that just came out and is hanging out doing it. Mm-hmm. And I think that's kind of what makes the bigger difference. And it's not necessarily saying, oh, we get better pricing. What it is we've got more options to see more notes. We've got more options to see the tail end of some funds when they're trying to get cashed out of stuff. One of these messages that was just on my phone we were talking about was a seller trying to get me to buy a note in New York because it's the last one in a pool. He knows I can get a good price. And I didn't want it 3 weeks ago. I still really don't want it now. But, for the price I'm going to put out there, if they said yes, there's no reason in the world I wouldn't want it. You know what I mean? Even if it took 2.5, 3 years to foreclose in New York, there's no reason not to take that trade. However, there was somebody 3 weeks ago probably thinking about taking it at a price they shouldn't have. And it's just one of those things that there's enough stuff in the market. I'm not going to let a seller tell me what my return should be. You tell me what your price is. That's great. I know what my number is because I'm working off of a spreadsheet. I'm not working off of emotion. And if I can't get my number, then it just doesn't matter. We're not going to do a deal together.
I think that is an interesting take. And I think that's the hot take I would really take away from it, depending on where you're at in your business. Not letting the seller dictate, right, your business insofar as what you can control. And if the people you're currently working with, whether that be a single seller or tens of them, and you're not finding those, go out and find some more. Go find other ponds to fish in. You know what I mean? But not letting them dictate that is very important.
I do want to clarify something I was just thinking about. When I said, we get some of these questions that I don't waste my time with answering. Look, there's a lot of stuff that we get, and I love answering questions when people have actual information points, and I will answer those emails all day long. Don't send me an email that you could have put into Google. That's the whole point. I guess that's the thing.
I think they knew that. I think they know that about you enough. You put in 103 episodes or whatever.
No, it's not even that. I mean, there's grown adults out here doing these deals, talking about 50 to 100K deals, and then asking a question that you should have just put into Google.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
I don't know. And expecting a response back.
I loathe those questions in real life, let alone in business. When somebody sends me a question that they could easily have Googled, I almost lose it on them every time. I'm going to be such a curmudgeon about that, I think, in 3 years. I think I'm slowly building to curmudgeon status on things like that, where I just want to send them to the Google results page. I'm just going to Google it enough times for people to finally go like, oh, he's calling me a dumbass. Oh, that's good. I like that.
Dude, so we'll go off topic to like problem solving, like solving your own problems, kind of like typing stuff into Google.
Yeah.
We were talking about it a little bit. I figured out I had to go buy one of these drug dealer phones. What did you burn phone, right?
Yeah, I love that you call it a drug dealer phone. I would call it a burner phone. I think that's just from so many years of watching these procedural TV shows, the Castles and all this of the world, calling them burner phones. Yeah.
That would I would assume that the demographic I was involving with was like the FBI, CIA, like spy level. That's that's a burn phone. I just think that this is just like if I have to send you one of these. Anyway, we've got a property up in Illinois, not in Chicago, but we've got an occupant in it who has been very nice and very kind, but apparently doesn't have email. And we've been communicating through a third party. Actually, I want to say it. It's actually very generic, so I guess I can say the name on the email is Billy Ocean. So I always think of Caribbean Queen every time I get get an email from them. So it kind of cracks me up. But I'm sending them a phone because I was just like, listen, I can't not get a hold of you, and they're going to stay in the property rent free. Also, I don't want the pipes bursting or anything else. While the real estate agent lists and sells the property for us. But anyway, I just thought it was interesting. So for $50 and a couple dollars in shipping, solving my communication problem that I've been having.
I like that. That to me was like the quintessential being resourceful and solving a problem through alternative means. You were like, I got to get a drug dealer phone. And I was like, wait, what? I love that. I thought it was great. And speaking of, you mentioned Billy Ocean. I thought of, because I'm lame, I guess, or don't get the reference. I actually thought of the Ocean's movies. And I was like, wait, isn't that, what's his name? But his name's Danny Ocean. But that's where my mind went. I was like, is this guy trying to pull a heist on you? Like, what's happening here? I'm like, oh, dude, we got to talk to this guy. That's where my mind went, though. So
yeah,
not quite as useful. Not quite as useful. Last thing that we want to talk about with you, the people, the lovely community, is this is most likely, underline most likely, the last show of 2016. A collective pause. There's a pregnant pause.
we may have a goal show.
Yes, we will more than likely have a goal show before the true capping of the year, before the true ball drops. Is that? Is that your ringer?
No, YouTube. Okay, I had to.
I was like, wait, does he have his ringer set up on that? This is so bizarre. I love that. That's fabulous. So we haven't taken a break since the inception of the show, technically speaking. And, we wanted a couple of weeks to just germinate on some of the bigger things that we're planning on accomplishing in 2017. And then obviously we've got a couple of holidays coming up, which is great. But just to kind of take that opportunity to shift into neutral, recharge the batteries, and be ready to really blow it out in 2017. Any general words about this, Mr. Woods?
I can just say, it's like the Kennedys used to summer, what is it, in Martha's Vineyard, or that's where they're at? Mm-hmm. So we're going to start wintering. Where do you winter?
Where do you hibernate? We're going to do a quick 6 week hibernation.
You and the family are headed down here to Florida, so I'm going to see you guys in another 2 weeks.
No, next week.
No, is it next week?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, week. Well, technically it will be the second week.
Yeah. Nah, it isn't.
Semantics.
Wait.
Yeah, because a week from today is the 29th. Technically, today's Tuesday.
We'll be in Orlando on the 27th.
Oh, I didn't know that. You have a long trip.
Yeah. That's what yeah, we'll be there. We'll be just for anybody in the Orlando area. Now that you know what me and my fam will be doing, we'll be down in Orlando on the 27th through a couple of days. We'll be down in the Orlando area.
Totally did not have the dates in my calendar. I thought you weren't coming in until the 29th.
No.
All right.
Well, there you go.
Pleasant surprise.
Exactly. Pleasant surprise here on the No NBA podcast. Well, if this is in fact the last show of 2016, I don't think it will be, but if it is, thank you so much for joining us this year. We appreciate every single one of you that's listening to the show right now, and any new listeners that we have. Thank you so much for being here. Mr. Woods, how would you like to sign off just in case?
I'd like to say happy Thanksgiving to everybody. It's as we know, it's a good time to have some gratitude and reflect on family and friends and great opportunities. And I think, it's just nice that we've been able to run this show from separate places for this long. I'm very grateful for it. We've got a great audience. And coming up towards the end of the year, as we always say, I think we will have one more show. It'll be a gold show. Mm-hmm. For sure. Yeah, man. Have a great Thanksgiving. Everybody, please be safe. Don't drink and drive. That's very important. In the world of Uber, there's no excuse for it. And be safe, have fun, and just enjoy your time with your friends and family.
With the friends and fam. I love it. Well, thank you guys so much for being here. As always, if this is your first time here, be sure to head over to iTunes, give us a rating, a review, and of course, subscribe. We appreciate you doing that. Everything we've talked about today and in every single one of our 100 episodes is over at notaba.com in the show notes over there. As always, remember, guys, be sure to tell 5 other people you know this week and subsequent weeks until we come back about the Note NBA podcast. We'll catch you guys soon.
Take it easy, guys. Thanks for listening.